It is undeniable that the long-term development of this country, which has proven elusive in the past few decades, is born out of the fact that there is no national unity and the national consensus as to the way forward. And this is born out of the kind of partisan system we have in the Republic of Ghana. So we are a nation moving on one leg at every point in time. Half of our intellectual resource go to sleep, as another half continues to work in government. It's either the intellectuals that are, loyal to the NPP as we have now, they are at work. Then the remaining half of the country, intellectuals that are affiliated to the NDC, whether directly or indirectly, they've all gone to sleep, and they are waiting for a day the other half will lose power so that they also come to power. So this circus is the main cause of the underdevelopment we have in the Republic of Ghana. And what is the way forward? The best thing we can do as a country is to look at the possibility of forming a future unity government. If we're able to form a government comprising the two major political parties and the other parties, and then we can use that as a litmus test to see whether we can resolve some of the long-term developmental deficiencies we have as a country. We are a nation that does not have confidence in itself. We are a nation of mutual mistrust. We are a nation of mutual sabotage, because the only way an opposition party can come to power is when it sabotages the party in power. So this self-eliminating impact does not augur well for the long-term development this country requires at this particular moment in time. So I'm of a strong conviction that at some point, you can see we've tried the NDC, we've tried the MPP. It is quite commonplace and ubiquitous for you to hear young people and some intellectuals, people in academia, say that the time has come for us to try a third force. What is the third force? When the other political parties have, in one way or another, formed an allegiance with the two major political parties. So it's a two-way traffic. It's either the MPP or the NDC, and it looks like it will be like this for so many years to come. But I would love to wake up one morning to a Ghana where we have a unity government. So when we say the National Development Planning Commission has to achieve this in the next 40 years, we stick to that. We should live in a country where heads of state institutions have job security. Already, by now, some state actors, people who are working in this government, they are apprehensive about their own future, which is natural, just as their predecessors were apprehensive about their own future, because political instability gives birth to job insecurity in the public sector space. So, because you are not guaranteed the next election, if care is not taken, if you don't have God conscience, and if you don't have conscience and you don't have the fear of God, you would want to amass as much ill-gotten wealth as possible within this short period of time because of the uncertainty of the election that is to come in the year 2020. So why don't we take away this political instability and job insecurity by towing the path that was taken by some, Asian tigers like Malaysia? I was looking at the prospects of Malaysia when it gained independence. We actually gained independence some few months before Malaysia. We gained independence in March 1957. Malaysia, which was called at that time Malaya, got independence in August of the same year, in 1957. But Malaysia and Ghana are poles apart. Look at our capital. Accra is one of the dirtiest cities in the world. One of the dirtiest cities in the world. Kuala Lumpur certainly doesn't look this way. Not even Kigali looks this way. We still have open gutters. We have kids roaming the streets. There are mothers, women that are in the maternity ward, lying on bare floor. So therefore, we can't be doing the same thing all the time and expect a different result. It doesn't work that way. Nature doesn't work that way. So I think we need to start this national debate, and people in academia can take up the challenge. People in civil society can take up the challenge, and people in, in politics, because ultimately it is the politicians that will decide whether Ghana can form a unity government. Malaysia, gained independence at a time there was so much division in the region in terms of identity. Chinese people, Indian people, the Malay people. But then they were able to put their act together to become the formidable country they are today. At a point in time, Singapore was actually one of the 14 states that came together to make up Malaya or Malaysia later. So as of 63 and 64, you had one country. And even because Singapore enjoyed that union and national unity, even when it seceded eventually and it broke away and became an independent nation state, Singapore is doing fairly well. So where have we gone wrong as a country? I think the devil, they say, is in the detail. It's not too much about the, electoral democracy that we have, changing governments every 4 or 8 years. It goes to the very heart of the mutual mistrust that exists between the two major political parties. And how do you resolve it? You will never find the NPP and the NDC have any appetite to share power. So the time has come for us, the masses, to start making a clarion call. What will we lose if His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama operate within the same space? We won't lose anything. If anything at all, we are going to gain as a country. So let's start looking at the possibility of having in the nearest, possible future, a unity government made up of the two major political parties, the NDC and the NPP, and also the other political parties. Then when we say this is where Ghana has to be, in the next 30 years, we will be dedicated to that commitment to take Ghana there. But if the NPP loses the election in 2020, off the cuff, you will know that many of the things they have started will be truncated, just as they also came and truncated some of the lofty, projects and initiatives that were started by their predecessors. So therefore, it's a zero-sum game. It's like we are on a treadmill. We pretend to be moving, but we are stationary. And not until we are able to resolve the schism between the NPP and the NDC as major political blocks or ideologies, I don't see Ghana develop in my lifetime. Neither do I see it develop in your lifetime as well. So at the grassroots level, start doing things together. At the branch level, start doing things together. I know the hierarchy of political parties is quite centralized. It's what the headquarters in Accra says, that all other branches and appendages of a political party will do. But at the youth level, I want to see TIN and TESCON, come together. The real national division starts from university campuses, because these intellectuals we have that we are grooming, they end up becoming parliamentarians, they end up becoming ministers, and they end up becoming presidents. So the division starts right from the corridors, right from the four walls of tertiary institutions. So I urge TIN and TESCON to start setting a good example. Look at the shambolic state in which Nooks is, all because of this partisanship. Nooks can have two parallel administrations at the same time, a Tain Nooks and a Tesco Nooks. A Tain Nooks for the NDC and a Tesco Nooks for the NPP. When will this end? When will this end? And I think it's a trickle-down impact of the national partisanship and polarization, and then the political shows, the daily political shows on radio and TV. They only deepen the national acrimony and the polarization we have in Ghana. And we have heavy doses of those every single day. Lee Kuan Yew didn't develop Singapore on the altar of acrimony and polarization. Tunku Abdurrahman did not build Malaysia during his early days after independence on the altar of acrimony, partisan acrimony and polarization. So let's start doing a critical review of where we want this country to be. It's all about the NPP having the men or not having them. And it's all about the NDC having the men or not having them. Each party is trying to deplete the potency of the other political party. So it's like two people heading for a common destination in a marathon. Then instead of handing over the baton, you would want to kick your friend to the side of the track. There is no way you can win such a race. And the people who lose the most are the citizens. So Ghana should start looking at the possibility of bringing these two political parties together and others in the form of a unity government. I'll make this admission. Because the election in 2016 looked like it was too close to call, and some people are already saying the 2020 election could also be too close to call. I was of the opinion that if there was a debacle and there was an electoral impasse, we could actually form a unity government. Yes, I was of the strong conviction that it was something we could use as a leeway to prevent a potential flare-up in the election because the stakes were so high. Thank God the election was peaceful. The party that lost gave way to the party that won. But has the state of the Republic of Ghana changed any significantly? If you have to be very candid to yourself, it hasn't. It certainly hasn't. So would we want to be on one leg all the time and not make the best of what this country can offer its people? Or we can bury our differences, try a unity government even for one term, and see how impactful it's going to be for our long-term development. We keep giving the same examples. We started off on the same pedestal with Malaysia. See where Malaysia is. Political stability is key. Because when you have political leaders looking over their shoulders, not sure of whether they can retain power in the next 2 years, 3 years, or in the next 4 years, anytime they come to power, what would you do if you were in their shoes? It's just like giving someone an employment and it's okay, you will be on probation for 3 months, but I can assure you, you will be absorbed into the mainstream workforce, but be in charge of our finances. Right from the first day, every single day of the 3 months, there is that uncertainty. The person would want to dip their hand into the money because they are not sure whether after 3 months you will maintain them. Just as our political leaders are not sure whether after 4 years or 8 years we are going to maintain them. So that sense of insecurity is a function of the corruption we are suffering as a country. And therefore, looking at the possibility of forming a unity government would go a long way to solve the long-term developmental deficiencies we have as a country. And let's start thinking of how we carry out the national discourse surrounding our development. The NDC did this, NPP are doing this, the NDC said this, NPP are saying this, doesn't really help. It doesn't take us anywhere. It only provides an opportunity for people who are seen as orators. And the fact that you have oratory doesn't mean you are a good administrator. Speaking well doesn't mean you can run a country well. Colonel Gaddafi, I leave the judgment to you. Was Colonel Gaddafi a speaker? See where Colonel Gaddafi took his country. Because there was political stability, there was national consensus, there was, a concrete determination by the country to go somewhere under the leadership of a person who had been made to feel secure as the head of the revolution, or the leader of the country, the head of state. Yes, so many examples are bound. It's not about speech. In Ghana, when you speak so well, then it means you can be a good leader. It's not about that at all. There have been leaders who have not been speakers, but they took their nations places. So I believe we need to rethink the political shows. They've not been helpful. They've only deepened the acrimony and polarization we have in the Republic of Ghana. How beautiful will it be for us to wake up every morning to a motivational talk from a technocrat? Someone who said, okay, if you're a civil engineer, this is how you can serve your nation. Someone who says if you're into agriculture, this is how you will serve your nation. Someone who says if you're a civil servant, this is how you serve your nation. But we are waking up to acrimony, partisan acrimony and polarization every single day, except Sundays. Even on Sundays, we are not spared in some cases. So that is all we are asking for. We've been in this country because this is our country. For the few decades we've been here, we've seen that things could be better. Look at the number of Ghanaians and Nigerians drowning in the Mediterranean just to run away from this system. Isn't it time for us to do a rethink? APC, PDP in Nigeria, the same old game. NDC, MPP in Ghana, the same old game. Our youth are running out of this country, these two countries, to seek greener pastures in much smaller countries. Countries with no natural resources, countries with no sunshine. When God has blessed us with all that we need to develop as a people. Say yes to a possible unity government in future to solve Ghana's long-term developmental deficiencies. Thank you.